So this video is kind of to go over how to write a formal email. Now, I know all of you have had practice writing emails before, but we're going to work on the formality of emails. And in certain situations, such as when you deal with professors, instructors, employers, and anybody, like maybe other businesses, anything where you don't know the person that well, um, you want to start with a certain level of formality. And even if it sounds a little stuffy, it's a way to present yourself in an educated manner, because people really do judge you the way you present yourself. And many of you know this, and that's why you dress nice in certain situations and you speak differently. But it's the same way when you write, and when you write emails. So we're going to go up here to where you would go for email, and you go to Go Email. And I'm going to show you an example of basically of what not to do, and then we're going to fix it together. This has to do with the assignment of writing a formal email. So I'm referring back to the PowerPoint, of course. So I'm going to scroll down, and I wrote myself a fake email from a fake student. And so the subject is assignment. So right off the bat, there's two things that are wrong with that particular subject line. One, it's spelled wrong. That looks really bad when the first word that the person sees is spelled incorrectly. Always, always spell check, guys, especially when you don't know the person. I can't emphasize it enough. It just looks really, really bad when you have many spelling errors. And some of you need to acknowledge that you are not great spellers. I actually need to acknowledge that I am not a great speller. Now, in this particular case, I did this on purpose, but spelling is something that I have had to work at. I've gotten much better throughout the years, but that's with constant work and vigilance. So if you know you're a bad speller, work on it. There's no excuse for bad spelling, especially today in the digital age when there's spell check all over the place. So make sure that you are really taking the time. Just use spell check. It's not the only way to do it, and I wouldn't only rely on that. But if you don't at least do that, that's really not a good start. So that's kind of strike number one with this particular fake email. Strike number two is the subject is assignment. Well, we're going to have a lot of assignments throughout the semester, and so just saying generic assignment, I have no idea which assignment it is. So it's going to be really hard for me to reference this when I don't know which assignment it is. So with all of that said, we're going to go ahead and open this up and see what other purposeful mistakes that I have made from this fake student. So, this fake student name is Tinny, which is one of my friends. Haha, he'd love that. Um, and Tinny kind of just sucks at life. So look at this. There's no... Oh, that's my phone and my husband. We're going to ignore him. Excuse that. Aren't I a great wife? So, back to Tinny. Tinny does not have an introduction. He does not greet me in any way, which is kind of rude. Especially when you don't know the person. So right off the bat, we're missing a greeting, and then this is the first thing that Tinny says to me. It says, "Here are my answers. Send me my grade when you've read them." That's kind of abrupt. There's no kind of greeting, saying, "Hello, how are you?" Not a lot of please or thank yous, and it sounds really rude. So even if in his head he's saying, "Hey, how you doing? Here are my answers. Please send me your grade when you've read them," this is all I see, which is not very nice. And again, spelling error. So it looks bad. Then we go on to here are the answers, but I don't see the questions, and in the answers, he doesn't embed the questions, so I really don't know what he's answering. So it's just not good all around. So what we're going to do is we're going to do a quick fix. So I'm going to reply basically to myself, and I'm going to fix this up. So I'm just going to delete this. So right off the bat, you want to address the person. You can just say, "Dear," and then in my case, it's Ms. Mulcahy. And you kind of always want to use Mr. or Ms. If you know the woman is married and you know that she took a last name, then you would use Mrs. But make sure you know that. For example, I'm married, but I did not take my husband's last name, so I'm Ms. So just make sure, nowadays it's just trickier when you're addressing a woman, and the default has now become Ms. instead of Mrs. So you always have a greeting. Um, and then you kind of want to just ease into the topic and say, dear Ms. Mulcahy, how are you? It doesn't have, you don't always have to have something like that. If it's somebody that's kind of one-on-one that you're going to get to know, it's nice to do something like that. If it's a business, I would jump right into it. You kind of have to feel it out, but it's nice to have those things in here. Hello, how are you? Here are my answers to the PowerPoint is capitalized. PowerPoint questions. Please send me my grade when you've read them. So just doing those little things already changes it up a lot. Now you can put a lot more in here and make it even more kind of personal and warm, but it just really depends on your personality. But at the very least, you want to put in the please, you want to have the spell check. It's nice to have some sort of greeting, and you definitely want to be able to address the person. Then we get into the actual answers. So what I like to do, so this is kind of all funky, and I think it's because it's supposed to be bulleted. So I'm just going to clear up the formatting here. And I am going to go back to the PowerPoint. And I'm going to highlight the questions. I'm going to copy them. And then I will go back to... Sorry, I have a lot of stuff up if you can't tell. And then I'm going to paste the questions in here. Now, there are a couple things that you can do to really help organize an email. So, one is to, if the person asked you questions, leave the questions. And you can even bold them to kind of have them stand out. What do you hope to learn from this class? This was the person's answer. Oops. So, what do you hope to learn from this class? And then I want to learn how to write. So this is a lot easier when you leave the question. You could also bold, or I already bolded. You can also do bullet points. In this case, you would want to indent maybe a little bit more. So have your question and then indent your answer. And then as far as the answers go, make sure that you always explain yourself. I want to learn how to write because I plan on becoming a nurse, and I know I will have to write up reports every day. I want to make sure I write them well. Explain yourself a little bit more. Just saying something like I want to learn how to write, it's kind of bleh. So, and it doesn't tell me anything about you. And you always want to present yourself as a person who is thoughtful. So always have a because if somebody asks you a question. So, again, for these, you can make them bold. You don't have to do it this way, but you can. And again, I'm just kind of taking my fake person's writing and I'm just cleaning it up. So, oops. There we go. And then an indent. So whatever you do in the first one, make sure you do on the second one. You don't want to bold some and not bold others. You don't want to indent some and not indent others. Just be consistent. Also, this is just something I see all the time. Always capitalize an I. It's a very basic thing, and many of you might be rolling your eyes, but that's just something that you want to make sure that you do. So how do you feel about writing and why? I like writing because it's interesting. Again, I would elaborate on this. Why is it interesting, etc., etc. Let's see. And I'm just cleaning this up again. I wouldn't have everything bolded because then everything looks like everything else. And so you want to distinguish the questions to the answers. And let's see. Oops. Okay. So, sorry, this is a lot of me talking to myself. Okay, so you can see that this is a lot better. I would have it maybe be in a little bit more detail, but there's a greeting. I am much more polite. I've cleaned up any errors, and I would, instead of just thanks, thank you for your time, something like that, or I look forward to your feedback, whatever you want to write, but make sure that you kind of address the person, talk to them, introduce your topic, organize your thoughts clearly, and then sign off in a polite manner. And then instead of Tinny, this person's name is actually Jason Tinsen. Have your full name. That's another way to do it. And again, as I said, that's one of the problems that I saw in some of my former students. So really make sure you clean up your writing, make sure it's organized and presented well. And again, emails are a way that you present yourself, so make sure that you present yourself in the most, putting your best foot forward. So if you guys have any questions on this, then email me, and I will get back to you.